The old story is a long cultural narrative that we've been living in, particularly in white middle class and upper middle class culture, but more even on a global scale, this concept that we have to make it on our own, that we have to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, that the world is competitive, that each of us has to find our own way and grab what we can, and that there's not enough love or money or anything to go around. That's the old story. And the new story is actually an even older story, I would say, and some of this builds on the work of Joanna Macy and Walter Wink and people like that, the concept that there is enough of everything to go around if we're willing to share and if we're willing to rely on each other. So it's moving from a sort of hyper-independence model to really understanding our own interdependence.
Your stewardship team here is here to engage you in conversation about the possibility of a new story. We are all gathered here to learn together on this voyage. How might we understand anew how to do the good work of stewardship in our congregations?
I was shanghaied as a new member in my church. I was a member of First Unitarian Universalist Church that's located in Portland, Oregon. And I volunteered to do whatever they wanted me to do, and they put me on the stewardship committee. First job in the church. We didn't know any better, so we thought this was sort of ordinary. And our first job was to work on raising $750,000. We didn't know that was unusual either. And so with Cecilia Kamen Miller, I worked for a couple of years on doing the annual fund drive, getting pledges, and I began to realize how essential the work was to fomenting a little revolution in our faith. And it became something that people wanted us to do more and more, and we thought about it in theological ways. We imagined that we ought to relate it to our understanding of who we are as a faith. And that has always put us a little bit on the outside. People love to hear about the techniques of a campaign, but we were committed to understanding what underlay it and why we should contribute.
So, how many of you came here today because you have very specific questions that you would like to have answered about your upcoming annual fund drive? Just very, like you're wanting to walk away with a serious toolkit. It's okay. Some of you, okay. Thankfully, not too many of you, because we're not going to give you a toolkit today. Those of you who have seen Jean and I work before, you know that what we are after might be called the practice of deep stewardship. That's sort of our shorthand word, or what I like to call, if you know about the slow food movement, we're after the slow money, slow stewardship movement. We believe that if we were to give you extra tools, you might be able to answer the question of how do we raise more money for next year and possibly the year after that. But we believe that there is a far more pressing question, which is how do we fund our churches going forward, and more importantly, how do we transform our culture within our walls and affect our cultural transformation outside of our walls.
We don't really often explore how giving is a transforming act. True giving means we don't expect something back for what we have given. We have given it freely. And giving on condition says, I'll give if, I'll give when. That chokes us off. What we need is to call every one of ourselves, each other, together in community, to give generously so that we might be transformed and we might understand we're not our money, we're not our wealth, we're none of those things.